you have a partner as a therapist, which I think sort of increases your chances of doing well with quite a bit of consistency. On the other hand, there have been times as a writer where I really feel like, I hit it out of the park. And whether you're a psychotherapist or a writer, you only get a certain number of those.
Out of which emotions do you do your best writing?
Is that like love or fear, or just all of the emotions?
I do my best writing out of anger, so.
I see. Well, I don't do my best writing out of anger, I would say. Although sometimes in essays, the pleasure, the polemic is apparent, but not usually in my fiction. I think I tend to write out of a very strong wish to tell a story and to see people come alive in my mind. That is probably a certain kind of love and a certain kind of loneliness and some other thing that I'm really not sure how to identify.
What are the strong points and weak points, if any, of your writing?
Well, I think I always would like to be better at what I'm doing, but that's a pretty general sort of thing. I don't think I tend to think about my work that way very much, actually.
Okay, so it's not like plot that comes easiest and best to me, and dialogue or whatever, the elements.
No, I certainly think you'd be, on one hand, if you read my short stories, you go like, well, we'd be hard-pressed to say the plot is at the forefront, although, something happens. On the other hand, with my most recent novel, lots of plot and lots of character. But probably I fall into the category of the character-driven writer, which doesn't strike me as a good or a bad thing.
Does any one part of writing come easiest, the characters, or I have no idea.
I don't find that much of it comes easy, unfortunately. Sometimes you have a really good day and the character is apparent and the voice unfurls like a bolt of silk, and that's terrific, although rare.
How has being Jewish affected your sense of where you are in the world?
Well, it's a difficult question for me to answer because I don't know what it would have been like to not be Jewish. I never went through a period of my life where I thought I wasn't Jewish or other people thought I wasn't Jewish. I think this is one of those, how do fish describe water questions. I'm sure that, the immigrant experience and the experience of hearing Yiddish spoken a great deal during my childhood and the experience of hearing multiple languages spoken and my parents' very particular relationship to Judaism, which is that on one hand, they certainly identified strongly as Jews. On the other hand, they were both atheists, and I was never in synagogue unless I was sort of sent to accompany my grandparents so that my grandparents wouldn't be upset with the family. But all of those things, I think, have created all sorts of interesting little nooks and crannies in my way of being and seeing, all of which I'm very grateful for, in much the same way that I'm feel that, being a woman has had, I'm sure, lots of effect on my ways of being and seeing, and being a mother has also had those effects.
Have you ever experienced anti-Semitism?
Sure.
Example?
Pardon me? I think, unless you stay only in the heart of a very Jewish community and never venture outside, you will in various parts of this country or other countries experience what I usually think of as sort of casual anti-Semitism, in which people say, you don't seem Jewish, or you don't sound Jewish, or I've never known anybody Jewish like you. You seem so nice. Or, oh, that's why he was asking about the price, because he's Jewish. Or it's like, it's not like being dragged off to the ovens, but it's unmistakably, a particular response that people have to a group that you are a member of. Even if they don't actively wish you harm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Has God ever been important to you?
No. I was not raised in a family in which that idea actually had any currency at all. And it has not really changed for me over the years.
How did you develop your quality control?
My quality control in what way?
Well, I'm struck that all your writing is so first class, and so much of the writing I read is not first class. So, and I read in one of your interviews that you brought back a mystery novel that you had.
That's the mystery I was telling you about. Yeah, I did.
So, yeah, where does this? Did your parents drum it into you that everything you do professionally must be first rate, or
no? No, I have to say that my parents were, for middle-class Jewish parents, remarkably indifferent to a lot of the things that you would have thought they would have paid attention to. We didn't have braces. We didn't have nose jobs. Nobody ever drummed it into us about, achieve. I don't know. I don't know what they were doing, but they weren't doing those things. I think I'm a pretty good editor. And so, I edit my work, and I don't think the point is to be published. I think the point is to write the best possible thing I can write. And if it gets published, great. And if not, not. But it is, I feel, one of the things that I have that I can control. I can't control stuff about publishing, but I can control the work that I put out there. And I feel very strongly that it's my job, my obligation to the work, not to publish stuff that I think is crap just because I have a chance to get it published.
Is there any other area of your life that you take the same care?
I think I take the same care with other things, but it isn't the same, because in writing I really have no one to blame but myself. It's up to me, and I get it right or I don't get it right, and it's not really that way in relationships, for example. I mean, I was certainly conscious of wishing to be the best mother I knew how to be. But, there are other people involved, and you've got a lot more back and forth. Whereas in writing, I think that, you really have to take responsibility for every sentence, and whether or not your editor said, oh, that was good enough, doesn't matter at all. If you knew it wasn't good enough and you let them publish it, shame on you. It's nobody else's fault.
How is the experience of having a relationship with a man different or the same as having a relationship with a woman? I mean, romance.
You mean for me?
Yeah.
Well, I think there are sort of general differences between men and women that all of us, everybody has their own stereotypes about genders, and I guess some of them are. I don't know that I'm in any better position than anybody else about those things. We all have our opinions about why our mothers are different than our fathers, or our brothers are different than our sisters, and I'm in the same boat as everybody else in that way. I think as my first husband, who was a political philosophy professor, used to say, in the end, the differences within a group are much greater than the differences between the groups. And I would say he was right.
You said in one of your interviews that as adults